So welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you're joining us today. I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, and his name is Angell. So Angell is a medicine man trained in shamanism, plant medicine, shamanic Reiki, medical Reiki, Sufi healing, sound healing, shamanic breathwork, meditation, and also Norse shamanism. So very, very deep and rich experience. And I'm super excited for Angell to share his wisdom today. I love how he is combining the power of shamanism and breathwork. So before we dive into learning more about shamanism and how you combine it with breathwork, Angell, I always like to learn a little bit more about what inspired all of our guests and all of our speakers to go deeper into the world of breathwork. So if you'd like to share with us a little bit about you and how your path led you to breathwork.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. I'm glad to be here. Well, I've dived in shamanism for a much longer time than breathwork. Originally, started 15, 20 years ago, and explore, with different teachers in Peru, in Brazil, and here in North America. And, I beautiful healings, transformations. And one day someone told me about breathwork. So it was many years ago now. And I went to breathwork sessions online. And in 1 hour, I experienced one of the most profound ceremony of my life, and connected to things that sometimes will take, much deeper work with other modalities. And I was like so amazed by it. And I got really curious about it. And so I started practicing more. And then one day, started to be trained to be a breathwork practitioner. And now I'm training people. So it's been an amazing process, but mainly because I've discovered that, in 1 hour of breathwork, we can sometimes do 10 years of psychotherapy work. And that's really powerful.
I love that. It's so powerful. It's amazing to hear just how often that's the story, right? You do one breathwork session and it's just like, especially when we've been doing all sorts of different types of work. And it's always exciting to me to see how many people then move deeper into the breathwork practice. And I feel like in this day and age, like we don't necessarily have 10 years to sit on a cushion, right? To begin to access these states of transcendence and self-awareness and healing. And so the more of us that are out there sharing and facilitating this work, I think the better off we're going to be as a species. So I love that you took that experience and you delved it. And I love that you combined it with shamanism. And that's the beauty of this work too, is just seeing how different practitioners integrate their different wisdom traditions into the breathwork journey itself. So for all our listeners, I'd like to start with just asking you, what is shamanism? Because I think there's many different ways to speak to shamanism. And for some people, they might not know exactly what shamanism is. So what is shamanism as far as your lineage?
Yes, well, I think for me, it's a connection to the land, to nature, and to the aliveness of it, to what we could call spirit. So knowing that it's not just objects that are out there like a stone or a river or a tree, but that's a being that is alive. And shamanism, is present across all cultures, all time, all over the planet. And it was, I think, this expression of that connection between the people, or the two-legged, as we call ourselves, and the other alive beings that are out there. And we can turn that in all the directions, the sky, and connect to the stars, the moon, other spirits, our guides. We can turn it to the earth. We can turn it to the direction, the east, the west, north, and the south. And there is many ways to express that, to connect, to reveal that connection. And in my specific lineage, I work with Andean Cosmology. I decided over 10 years ago to work with a teacher in Peru and to explore deeply into that one path. But there is there are many paths out there and many, many ways. But I often call it our birthright. This is something that we are born with, that connection. That's something that we have experienced in the belly of our mother, that we experience as very small child. And very often society or our culture, doesn't allow it or doesn't foster it. But if we were born in a native culture, if we were born, in a more traditional culture, that would be something that would be part of life. So I don't, sometimes people call me a shamanic practitioner and things like that. For me, it's a way of life. It's a way I express myself. It's a way I live my life, because it's not a practice in itself. And that's what I like to see it, a way of life, a birthright, a connection to all there is, something, that is quite vast and hard to describe and answer even the question you ask.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. I hear that in terms of the vastness of it and hard to describe it. But at the same time, what I'm hearing in your share is the simplicity of it, right? That it is our birthright. Because sometimes people think of shamanism like this, like super mystical, hard thing to achieve. And the reality is it's just about being aware and connected to all of life, right? So as you say, connecting to the stone, to the river, to the moon, to the stars, and really bringing that embodied connection, that it's not just these inanimate objects that we point at. There's actually a living transmission and experience that we can all life becomes so much richer within that space. So I appreciate both the simplicity within which you share that and walk that path. And I think it's important to demystify it so that it's not some elusive thing. It's actually a thing that we can live in our day to day.
Yes, in every breath.
Every breath, exactly. So speaking of the breath, tell me how you have weaved or seen the breath, like shamanism as a foundation for breath work or vice versa. How do you weave in these two practices or these two modalities?
Yeah, I think it came naturally, just because for me, that spiritual connection to what's alive is present in the way I see the world, and I connect to you and just everybody out there. And as I was practicing and learning breath work through a school that's based in UK, and I was doing my sessions with my co-students, all those messages were coming and all those connections were coming. And when I allowed that to come into the space, it gave me more tools to basically help people navigate what might come up as we do breath work. And also I've realized that, for example, when we breathe for 1 hour, we go through the medicine wheel of Andean cosmology. So there is, 4 directions, like in most medicine wheel: east, west, north, and south. But the way the medicine wheel is built in Andean cosmology is a reflection of life. So the 4 directions correspond to 4 stages of life, from birth to death. And I realized that as the breath work start happening, as we breathing, we somehow walking into those 4 doors, or those 4 altars, as we call them. And so when I started to basically call that into the space, each 15 or 20 minutes, the session became way more powerful and something deeper was happening. And also, I think it helped overall to connect to all the bodies, as we call them: the physical body, the emotional body, the mental one, and the spiritual one. And it's kind of normal when you think about it, because those altars were designed or revealed or discovered as a reflection of nature, as a reflection of our nature. So it's kind of logical that as we go through a practice of breath that is very powerful, and the breath is the wind element, it's in the north direction in this medicine wheel, and it's called the bridge, the connection to all there is. And so you can see that if we bring the bridge and the connection to all there is, indeed, we are going to connect to the elements. Indeed, we are going to connect to all our bodies and all our medicine. And indeed, we are going to reveal maybe things that have been disconnected for a long time in our bodies, in our mind, in our psyche, and able to start working with them with the power of that breath. So they literally weave together, even if we have no knowledge of that medicine wheel. No, they're just present, and I see them happening in front of my eyes without talking about it. So that's, I think, the beauty of it and the power of it.
I love that. That's really interesting. And I find that, as space holders, as breath workers, the frequency that we bring to the practice so greatly impacts people's journeys, right? The space that we hold, the intention that we bring. And so it's always a beautiful mirroring when we begin to see our intentions, our lineage begin to be expressed through the breathwork journey itself. So I'm really curious, actually, when you share that the 4 stages of the altar are then go through the 4 stages that can naturally happen through a breathwork journey. Could you speak a little bit about that? I find that fascinating. Like, what are those 4 stages?
Sure. So the medicine wheel in the Andean cosmology tradition is a little bit different, or maybe strange for some people compared to maybe a Native American medicine wheel or other traditions, because it doesn't go in a circle. It goes kind of crossing the wheel. So it goes from the east, and then we cross to the west, and then it goes to the north, and then it goes to the south. So it kind of makes this 8 symbol, this infinity symbol, and then we return to birth. And the first door, or the first altar, is in the east direction, and is connecting to the fire. And in this tradition, it is said that the fire carry one prayer, which is the prayer of gratitude, or what we call the thank you prayer. And it's the first part of our life, the first 20 years of our life. Thank you, Mother. Thank you for feeding me. Thank you for this world. You know, we're grateful to be alive. We're discovering this life on this planet. And then we cross the wheel, and we go into the west direction, the direction of the waters. And the waters carry the prayer of clarity. You know, if the water are flowing, if the water are clean, our own waters, not just the water of the world, then we can see clearly. We can see our reflection in our own waters. And you can think of it as a time in our life between our 20s and our 40s where we discover who we are. Mm-hmm. You know, what I'm here about. What is this life about? So that's clarity, you know. And all the doors and all the altars, they have a shadow side. So the shadow of the first one is anger. I'm not happy with what's there. You know, we can feel gratitude. And the shadow of the clarity prayer, of this water prayer, is confusion. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what this life is about. I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know my purpose. And then if we can pass that door, if we can pass that altar, we get to the third door, the north direction, the wind, the breath. And it is said that the wind carries the prayer of unity, that connection between everything. It connects me to my ancestors, connects me to all my medicines, to really everything there is. And the shadow there is the ego. That's what creates separation. That's what prevents me from seeing unity. And that's my 40s to my 60s, starting to feeling that connection. You know, it's like the wise man, the wise woman birthing, really, like, you know, becoming the elder, not yet the elder, but becoming it, starting to feel this connection. And then we land in the last door, in the earth, the direction of the south, so Mother Earth. And the prayer that is carried there is a prayer of love, or unconditional love, you know, giving without expecting anything in return, loving in the way the earth is loving. And we land in our physical body, and that's where it's ending, you know, because that's where we go from at some point. And that's after our 60s, you know, and this door is really hard to achieve, that state of complete love. It's the state of maybe the gurus, the enlightened masters, the Christ. It's like being able to sustain that. And then we forget, we die, and we come back to the first door. And so it's really this cycle. And so if you think of breath work, you know, we're really navigating that. The fire rise at the beginning, we're getting more hot, we're breathing more. And then our water start moving. Usually our emotions come out, you know, and we start having emotional waves, and maybe we start to see confusing things or clarity things. So we navigate in that messy door. Sometimes it's like the trickster energy is there. And then at some point, as we go deeper, after 40 minutes maybe of breathing, then we start experiencing unity. We start seeing from a very different perspective. We start connecting all the elements together. And by the end, we return on the earth. We return in our body, we land, and we integrate the teaching in our own earth, our own bodies. So that's, you know, this kind of beautiful 8 infinite cycle that we are navigating across our whole life, or that we can navigate in 1 hour of breath work very often.
I love that. I've never heard that before. And it really warms my heart, because when I was younger, I studied shamanism for quite a while, and I had my own altar. I traveled around my mesa and had all my, I was like in the lineage. And then I just kind of let go of it for a while and went deep into breath work. And so this is the first time I really hear the merging of that. And that actually does make so much sense in terms of in the breathwork practice, how we bring in that fire, we bring in that intention, we activate to then move the emotion, allow that water to move through this, and then connects us to truth. And then we land back into, we integrate it into our bodies, into our lived experience. And then again, then it keeps going, right? So our whole life journey, there's never a place where we got it, right?
Yes.
And the longer we walk this path, the more we get to see that it's never ending our growth, right?
Because it is the great cosmological cycle. You know, if you think of the universe was created with that big explosion, it was fire. And then this earth was created with fire. You know, it was just a burning ball. And then the waters arrived. And then the wind started to blow, and then the rain fall on the earth, and the life was there. So it's like also the cycle of the great creation, you know, the greater creation of the universe. Yeah. And if you think of it, it's like, oh, I bring the fire to clean the water. So the fire enter, boil the water, cleanse them. Then the waters become clouds and go into the wind and the air. And then those waters, this rain fall on the earth. So it's also the cycles of the energies on this earth. And indeed, because we are born of it, we're made of it, indeed, we are following the same cycles. Indeed, if we are healed and aligned and in connection, we are going to flow that way. So that's what I like. You know, there's so many dimensions to it. We can link just like you or me and our bodies and what's happening in breathwork, but we can also look at the creation of the universe and see the same thing happening. How magical is that?
Amazing, right? And
it's very humbling. Yeah, it's very powerful.
It's very powerful. And it really brings to life this whole concept of from the microcosm to the macrocosm and back, right? Yeah, beautiful. So in your work, sometimes you refer to the sacred space of wisdom. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Well, I think, you know, very often people go to practitioners like myself or other practitioners or certain practice or even breath work to kind of get that wisdom somewhere. You know, we're in need of wisdom in our societies because the world is quite complex and sometimes a lot of pain is out there. And so we're looking for another type of wisdom. And I like to see the sacred space of wisdom as that space where we return to ourselves. You know, I'm really not bringing that wisdom of this altar or this Andean cosmology, even if I'm studying it for over 10 years and practicing it every day. Really, you carry it. You carry those 4 altars. You carry those 4 elements. And so the sacred space of wisdom is that capacity for us to remember how to access it and to see what is in the way of it. And so when we hold the space in a breathwork session or any kind of healing, I think our prayer needs to come from that place that you are your own healer, you are your own masters, that you carry the wisdom that is necessary. And I see that in you. I always see it. However broken you think you are or lost you are, it is right there. And the further away you are from it, the more pain there is usually. But it is still there. It is still there. And the pain is that disconnection. It's not really what's happening in your life. It's because you're far from your center. You're far from the truth. And that's what creates the pain. And the further away you go from it, the more it's going to call you. And it's calling you through that pain. You know, it's like longing to return. And that's the sacred space that we hold for people, but that we are holding for ourselves. You know, when we're breathing, when we're doing yoga, when we're doing meditation, you know, any kind of sacred practice, really, it's that return that we're calling, that remembering. So it's not a new learning. It's not someone bringing it to you. You know, it's really you rediscovering that you have this innate power. And usually that's really what can create the deepest healing, because we can kind of wash away all the lies we might have received from our education, the society, that we're not enough, that we need to buy this, that we need to do that in order somehow to be whole, to be complete. You know, and that's probably the greatest lie out there. or the greatest misunderstanding. I don't know if it's on purpose or not, doesn't really matter, but it's definitely a misunderstanding of our true nature and our
Yeah.
capacity to self-heal.
100%. 100%. Thank you for that generosity. And I think in our work, it's so important to really bring that forth, right? Because I think so much of the healing world sets up this paradigm where people actually, they might do some healing, but it's not actually coming from within themselves, right? And so through breath work, I find that people are really able to access their inner healer, to recognize they don't actually need anybody to tell them, right? I mean, we grow in community, so we can hold a space for each other to then feel safe enough to tap in and to work through whatever's in the way, like you say, of that truth, of that connection to self. But I think it's such a powerful place to come from, is to really empower others to be their own self-healers. And I think breathwork is one of the most powerful access points to really bring that forth in people who are searching in the process of remembrance, or who are in pain. Right.
Yeah, I think, very often in this tradition, we often talk about not only where you are pointing your prayers or your intention. So you might point it towards, liberation, healing, peace, getting rid, I don't know, of your depression or addictions or whatever is there, but where is the prayer coming from? What is really praying? Are we praying from a lack of self-love? Are we praying from the pain? Or are we praying already from that place that I know there's a healer there? This is the one I want to pray for, that healing. So my teacher, always invite me to reflect on not what I'm praying for, but where I'm praying from. Where is that arrow coming from? And that can shift our whole perspective, because I'm sure many people, that are attending this summit and go to all your beautiful offerings, it's pointing in the right direction. It's definitely pointing, towards knowledge and wisdom and transformation. But sometimes it's not happening and people don't understand why. And when we return to where it's coming from, very often maybe this prayer is coming from the belief that I'm not enough, that I need to be fixed. And that's what's praying. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to get stuck in that. So it's returning, and it can be a very difficult process to try to find where is my prayer is really coming from. Is it from the pain, or is it from that higher self? Is it from the knowledge, or maybe the belief that somewhere there is this healer? Or is it from the place that, no, I am broken, I don't have enough, and I need to do all the things in order to get something? And that can really shift, the way we look at how we pray or how we live our life, because, our life is really our prayer at the end, not just how we pray.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I guess in different language, it's almost speaking to this, what's our why, right? Is our why because we think something out there is going to save us or make it all better, right? Or is our why just to continue expanding the truth of who we are in each moment and to clear whatever's in the way of that truth? So I think it's really important to even have that awareness, because sometimes we don't even recognize that we have that choice of really getting connected to what our why is. So I think that's a really powerful
and there might be a lot of pain there, when we look at it, when we look where it's been coming from so long. So it can be very tender, and that's where we need a lot of compassion for ourselves, a lot of caring for ourselves, a lot of really gentleness, because it can be very tender space to start discovering, wow, I've been praying from that pain for a long time. And it's difficult sometimes to realize where it's coming from, and to approach it with still a lot of love, still a lot of gratitude, a lot of clarity, really these deep needs for understanding it instead of wanting to change it.
Yeah, beautiful. And it shifts it out of this idea of a mental thing of something having to fix, and it becomes more of an embodied transmission. And I think, when I speak to you, Angel, just really feeling that level of compassion, that level of kindness is something that I'm hearing, and I'm feeling that you really have this ability to transmit from an embodied place. Like you've gone through that journey, you've gone through that process.
And I'm still going through it.
Of course. Right. But it's so beautiful to witness, because it's not, because so much knowledge is passed down that's not embodied. Right. So to be able to take the tools, but actually from an embodied place, is really what creates a sacred container, right? For people to actually really be able to tap into that place of truth. So I really want to just bring that forth because I really feel that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm wondering if you would like to, our listeners love to have experiences as well, speaking of, and I'm curious if you'd like to guide us through an experience that would have us tap into the wisdom that you bring or share through your own lineage and your own practices.
Sure. I mean, we can do a short, less than 10 minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes breath to
Great.
experience it. So, inviting people that are connected here, if they can lay down, it's even better to lay down on their back.
Great.
And just close their eyes. And just, taking just a few seconds just to connect to every part of the body. Very often we probably been listening to that talk and we've been a lot in our head without being conscious of the somatic experience of the words, of the listening. And so feeling, our chest and our solar plexus and our belly, feeling our legs all the way down to our feet and arms and hands, feeling our back and our spine, our pelvic bone. Almost like saying a good morning to our bodies, like really witnessing every part of the body. And we are going to breathe for a few minutes through our mouth. And the way we breathe is a continuous breath, so we are going to basically never pause or hold the breath. And we're going to inhale through our mouth all the way down to our belly. So really long, deep inhale. So you open your mouth and start taking that long inhale. And then exhale. So keep breathing and witnessing at the end of your exhale to not pause. So when your exhale is finishing up, just take the next inhale. And on the top of the inhale, don't hold the breath, let it out and soften your body. So keep breathing in and out. And make sure those breaths are really long. It's not really about the speed, it's about the length and the depth. So imagine on the next inhale that you're sending that inhale all the way down into your legs. So expanding the reach of the inhale deep into the body. And exhale and soften. Every time you exhale, just soften, relax. Make sure you keep breathing. No pausing, no holding. And you might start feeling some part of the body opening. So I invite you, that happen, to breathe into those parts. So maybe there is tingling happening. Maybe part of your body are calling you, and that's calling the breath, or inhale there. Maybe your hands tingling. Maybe your mouth or your lips are tingling. So on the next inhale, just breathe into that deep and exhale, soften around it. And keep going. And witness maybe the mind trying to get in the way, trying to stop the breath, try to have an opinion, and return to the body. Really, the meeting of your breath and the body is what we're paying attention to here. And maybe some discomfort or resistance or emotions can arise. And if there is any of that, meet it with gratitude. Embrace it and give it your inhale. So breathe into it. Could be, fear or shame, sadness, joy, love, ecstasy, anything. We're just meeting with the breath in the body, the somatic experience of who we are in that moment. Keep breathing for a few more minutes. And really listen to the body and try to stay ahead of the mind. Just leave the mind on the side. Stay connected to the body sensations. And every inhale, return to where the sensations are the strongest now, where it's arising. Maybe it's somewhere in your belly or your stomach. Maybe it's in your chest or your hands. That's where you send your inhale, gifting your breath to that part of your body that is speaking to you. And exhaling, softening, like making a crib, a soft bed around what is speaking. Keep breathing through the mouth, a few more breaths. And when you're done on the last exhale, just return to breathing through your nose, slowing down the breath when you're ready, and just staying there for a minute. Just looking at your body again, as you did before we started. Every part of the body. And what do you notice? How sensation of shift. Maybe the mind is more quiet. Maybe you feel more safe. Maybe you realize how far you were from your body today. And just sending a prayer or an intention of gratitude towards yourself, towards your heart, your bodies, your emotions, letting them know that they can speak anytime and that you're going to be listening, paying attention, be present. And maybe it's a very new thing, or maybe it's something you've been doing for a long time, but always reminding our bodies that we are ready to listen, that we're ready to hear that wisdom from our own earth and attend to it. Thank you. So it's a very short experience, it's like just the beginning, but maybe you touch upon something, or maybe something is still moving, and it's so simple what we're doing. It's really being so present. The only reason things are not healing, or we're not hearing wisdom, or we're not connected to what we call our guides or truth or clarity, is just because we have lost our capacity to truly listen to our bodies. We are very much in our mind. And the mind is a wind element, interestingly enough. It's a very masculine energy. And the body is feminine. It's a return to the feminine. It's a return to the earth. And we've lost that in our societies, but because we've lost it with ourselves. We're very afraid, and very often, we carry a lot of trauma there from our ancestors, our families, maybe something that happened to us. And that's why, this practice can be so powerful, because we're going to attend finally to what is speaking so loudly. Before maybe we get a cancer or an autoimmune disease or something so loud that we have to listen. And so we want to avoid that. And if we're there already, if we're experiencing something really difficult with our health, we can still attend to it, and very often then can shift this healing process, because our body knows how to heal. It knows how, it just needs to be listened to. And so that's, I think, the power here with that breath, is that return to that deep listening of our own earth, our own bodies. And we're using something that's very tantric or very shamanic. We can see it in different ways, which is that masculine and feminine energy meeting, the bodies and the breath, and kind of twirling with each other and going deeper with each other. Something that is bringing us to the non-dual space of non-masculine, non-feminine, to beyond the veil, to reconnecting to what we call, maybe God or the universe or a higher self. It doesn't matter the name we use. It's because we're doing this alchemical process inside, and it requires no knowledge. It requires just this body and this beautiful gift we got when we got out of the belly of our mother, which is that first breath. Somehow, everything was given there, and then we didn't really pay attention how important it was.
Or we just forgot, right?
We forgot, because it's automatic. We're breathing without thinking. but we can also control it. That's the only function in the body that's like that, automatic, and we can control. Your heartbeat, your digestion, everything is either automatic or you control, like my hand, but it's not automatic. If I don't think of it, she doesn't move on its own. So the breath is a bridge because of that. It's designed in our biology that we can access the unconscious of the body through that little bridge. And that's why it's so powerful. That's why it can change our life completely, that for sure.
Amazing. My brain just went
Good. That's the goal. Let the brain just like poof and go away.
I love that. I mean, this is, again, I'm so enjoying this journey through this whole summit and really seeing, I've been doing breath work for 25 years, right? And every time it's just like there's this thing that clicks, right? And so when you speak about the Andean cosmology and the breath being the bridge, right? And this is the first time that I've really made that connection as far as, the breath is both automatic and we can control it. And that's why it's a bridge, right? And just that way of thinking about it. And I was like, that is such a potent observation to really.
And that's why it's in all the spiritual traditions to work with the breath, from the Sufis to the Christian mystic to, all the traditions have always used the breath, and somehow they knew, they remembered. Yeah. And that's why it's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always understood of it as the bridge, but the fact that it's automatic and that we can control it was the first time I actually saw the relevance of that. And that's a real gem that I'm going to walk away with from. I mean, apart from all the beautiful ways that you weave the cosmology and the journey of the altar into the breath. I mean, what a rich conversation, Angell. And I really appreciate also the way you guided us through that process of really connecting to our bodies, right? And our bodies are our earth, right? And as you said before, like the microcosm and the macrocosm. And so as we continue connecting to our own embodiment, then that also wakes us up to this beautiful earth that we get to call home, and developing that relationship with, as you started the conversation, right? That, a rock and a river, and it's not these inanimate objects, there's life force, and we're a part of all of it. And I think that will, the more of us wake up to that, the more we're going to shift the course of humanity. And it's so important right now to have that remembered.
Yes. And if we go deep in those practices, shamanic practices or breath work, at some point we can go into the one body. So I can rediscover that through my body, I can connect to your body when I'm in a sacred space. That I can start feeling the one body of the earth, and connect to what's needed and the wisdom that is there. So this illusion of separation goes way beyond even just that little experience, because we can start connecting that earth element that I am in my physical body to the greater collective of bodies. And then we understand, maybe some of the teaching that says, well, until everybody is healed, we are not healed. If there's still suffering out there, I am still suffering, and we can have an embodied experience of it, but with enough tools to be able to take care of it. And the first goal is to take care of our own pain before we can address the world pain. But that's the most important place to start, because from there we can go everywhere once we've done that work.
Yeah, we have the resiliency to be able to.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Angell. I feel like we could talk for
hours.
Thank you,
Lisa. It was wonderful.
So just given the nature of these sessions, there's just a glimpse into the vast knowledge that you carry, Angell. So I'd love for you, if you could share with all our listeners different ways that they can continue learning from the gift that you bring.
Sure. Well, they can visit my website. It's called thesanctuaryheal.com, like a sanctuary heal, HEL.com. And we offer free breath work every Saturday evening, pretty much, aside from the holiday time. So if people want to experience a 1 hour breath and see how it works and, go deeper into that, we also do breathwork trainings if people are interested. It's called Breathing Pathways. It's a full-on year training to become a practitioner, and other things that they can discover on the website. So yes, it's such a gift. I wish everybody not just come to us, but just experience breathwork in general, because it's such a powerful way to reconnect to everything we have been looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful, Angel. Thank you so much. And for those of you that are listening, I highly recommend checking out Angel's website and also seeing the magical place that you've created in upstate New York. I hope one day to be able to visit you and to
Please,
really
yes.
feel, yeah, to feel just like the how you're being a steward of that land in such a powerful way. And I can see the gift that is emerging from your commitment and your intention to be a space holder and a medicine man. And it's really felt. So thank you so much, Angel.
Thank you. Thank you,
Mm.
Lisa.
Thank
Much
you.
blessing to you and to all the people that have been listening to us.
Thank you, Angel. So if you were to leave our listeners with one last thing for them to connect, to make changes in their life, one last little nugget of wisdom, what would that be?
Be kind with yourself.
Yes.
Be kinder.
Beautiful.
With yourself.
Amazing. Wow. Yes, yes, and yes. So thank you so much, Angel. Thank you to all the listeners for being with us today. And thank you, Angel, for your time and the gift that you bring.
Thank you, Lisa. Much blessing.
Thank you.